substance, animate the aspirant. This is briefly and inadequately expressed divinity. It is, however, a relative expression of divinity. When each of us stands where stand the Masters and the Christ, we will regard this whole question from another point of view. The developing of virtues, the cultivation of understanding, the demonstration of good character and high aims, and the expression of an ethical and moral point of view are all necessary fundamentals, preceding certain definite experiences which usher the soul into worlds of realization which are so far removed from our present point of view that any definition of them would be meaningless. What we are engaged in is the development of those qualities and virtues which will clear our vision, because they produce the purification of the vehicles so that the real significance of divinity can begin to emerge in our consciousness. Be certain basic premises with this preamble. We will pass on to the consideration of the mechanism and of that which infuses it and motivates it with life and intelligence. Certain basic premises are recognized and can, therefore, be very briefly mentioned. 1. The soul informs the mechanism in two ways and through 2 points of contact in the body. A. The thread of life is anchored in the heart. The life principle is there to be found, and from that station it pervades the entire physical body through the medium of the bloodstream, for the blood is the life. B. The thread of consciousness, or of intelligence is anchored in the head, in the region of the pineal gland, and from that station of perception it orders or directs the physical plane activities, through the medium of the brain and the nervous system. 2. The directive activity of the soul, or its authoritative grasp upon the mechanism of the body, is dependent for its extent upon the point of development, or upon the so-called age of the soul. The soul is ageless from the human angle, and what is really meant is the length of time that a soul has employed the method of physical incarnation. 3. The result of this twofold hold upon the mechanism during the past ages has been the conditioning of the material, in conjunction with its own inherent conditioned nature. A form is produced which is adequate to the temporary need of the soul, and which is a reflection, in time and space, of its relative age, or point of development. This, therefore, produces the type of brain, the conformation of the body, the condition of the endocrine system, and consequently the set of qualities, the type of mental reaction, and the character with which any given subject enters into life upon the physical plane. From that point, the work proceeds. This work might be regarded as an effort to intensify the hold which the divine thinker has upon the mechanism. This will lead to a wiser, fuller direction, a deeper realization of the purpose, and an effort to clear the way for the soul by the institution of those practices which tend towards right conduct, right speech, and good character. The thought underlying this paragraph links the conclusions of the materialistic school of psychologists with the introspectionist school, and those schools which posit a self, a soul or a spiritual entity, and shows that both groups are dealing with facts, and that both must play their united parts in training the aspirant in the new age. 4. As the introspective method is pursued, and as we study the human subject, we discover that underlying the human body in all its parts, and constituting a definite part of the human apparatus, there is a vehicle which has been called the Etheric Body, composed entirely of threads of force which, in their turn, form the channels along which still more subtle and varying types of energy flow. These are, in their turn, conditioned, during manifestations by the status of the soul. These threads underlie and interpenetrate the entire body, and the nervous system, and are in reality the actuating power of the nervous system. Their responsiveness to impacts, outer and inner, is unbelievably great. The nervous reactions of the disciple and highly developed person, whose etheric body is in close rapport with his nervous system, is beyond the average comprehension. 5. The sum total of the nerves, with the millions of nadis or thread counterparts in the etheric body, form a unit, and this unit, according to the teaching of the ageless wisdom, has in it points of focus for different types of energy. These are called force centers, and upon these depend the life experience of the soul, and its expression, and not upon the body. They are the factors which condition the glandular system of the body. 6. The subjective and objective system governs the manifestation of the soul on the physical plane. It indicates to those who can see in truth the grasp or hold that the soul has upon its instrument. It can be seen whether that grasp is occasional and partial or whether it is entire and whole. This is most wonderfully indicated in a certain Masonic grip, which marks a climax in the experience of the candidate to the mysteries. I previously referred to the main channel of communication between the soul and its mechanism as being A. The center at the base of the spine. B. The center at the top of the head, where the most important center in the body is situated from the standpoint of the soul. There is its point of entry and exit. There is the great radio station of reception, and the distributing center for direction. See the spleen. This is a subsidiary center, an organ in connection with the heart center. It is through the spleen that a linking up takes place between the life principle, seated in the heart, and the consciousness system, interlinking all the material organs and the atomic substance of the physical body. This statement indicates that, in the location in the human body where the spleen is found, along with its corresponding subjective force center, two great currents of energy cross. These are the current of physical vitality, or life, and the current of the consciousness of the atoms, which construct the form. It will be observed that we are here discussing the group subconscious life and not the conscious life and the self-consciousness. The spleen is the organ in which planetary prana, or vitality, is received and passed. This enters in through the open gateway of the splenic force center, and passes to the heart. There it merges with the individual life principle. Through the splenic center also passes the conscious life of the sum total of the bodily cells, which are, in their turn, the recipients of the energy of the consciousness aspect or principles of all atoms and forms within the fourth kingdom of nature. This we cannot be expected to comprehend as yet, but the truth will be appreciated later on in the racial development. A hint can here be found as to the excessive sensitivity of the solar plexus center to surrounding group impacts and impressions of an astral kind. There is a close rapport between the splenic center and the solar plexus, as well as with the heart. 7. These two subjective and subconscious streams of energy cross each other in the region of the spleen, and there form a cross in the human body, as they traverse each other's lines of force. This is the correspondence in the human body to the cross of matter, spoken of in connection with deity. Consciousness and life form a cross. The downpouring stream of life from the heart and the stream of life-giving energy from the spleen pass on, after crossing each other and producing a whirlpool of force, into the solar plexus region. From thence they are very definitely drawn together as one stream at a certain stage in the life of the advanced aspirant. There they merge with the sum total of energies, using the 3 points referred to the head, the base of the spine, and the spleen as a definite mode of communication, of distribution and of control, and finally of ultimate withdrawal, consciously or unconsciously, at the moment of death or in the technique of inducing that stage of control known as samadhi. 8. When the directing agent in the head, deliberately and by an act of the will, raises the accumulated energies at the base of the spine, he draws them into the magnetic field of the centers up the spine and blends them with the dual energy emanating from the spleen. The spinal tract with its 5 centers then awakens into activity, and finally all the forces are gathered together into one fused and blended stream of energy. Three things then happen. A. The Kundalini fire is raised and immediately burns away all the etheric webs, which are the protective barriers, separating the various centers. B. The etheric body intensifies its vitality, and the physical body is consequently powerfully vitalized, galvanized, and energized. C. The entire aura is coordinated and illumined, and the soul can then, at will, withdraw from its physical vehicle in full waking consciousness, or stay in it as an incarnated Son of God, whose consciousness is complete on the physical plane, the astral plane, and on the mental levels, as well as in the three aspects of lower mind, causal consciousness and nirvanic realization. This process finds its consummation at the third initiation. In the life of the aspirant, the power to cause this tremendous happening is dependent upon the carrying forward of the inner subjective and spiritual work previously described as the building of the bridge on the mental plane, between the above-mentioned three aspects. For the race of men as a whole, this work began in the middle of our Aryan race, and is today going forward very rapidly. For the individual aspirant, the work has always been possible right down the ages, and it is the major task undertaken by disciples at this time. It might be added here that the new group of world servers is composed of those who are engaged in this work for the race, and every person who builds his bridge joins this group of occult bridge builders. There is, therefore, something symbolic about the work of our modern bridge builders who join the chasms and span the waters and thus give concrete evidence of the work being done today by advanced humanity. It now becomes possible to consider the process whereby a man bridges the gulf or gap, speaking symbolically, which exists between the personal lower self and the higher self, as the latter functions in its own world. This has to be bridged before at one man can be achieved and complete integration of the entire man can be brought about. To understand clearly what occurs, it will be wise to define more accurately what that higher nature is, and of what it consists. We have seen in our studies that the soul is a dual blend of energies, the energy of life, and the energy of mind as far as its relation to the mechanism is temporally concerned. The merging of these two energies in the human mechanism produces what we call consciousness, at first self-consciousness, and finally group consciousness. The mechanism is, in its own nature, also a blend or fusion of energies, the energy of substance itself which takes the form of the atomic structure of the physical body, plus the vitality which animates that body, and, secondly, the energy of that body which we call the astral body, distinguished by sensitivity, emotional activity, and that magnetic force which we call desire. There is, finally, the energy of mind itself. These four types of energy form what we call the lower personal self, but it is the higher mental aspect of the mind, which links, subjectively, this personality and the soul. It is the lower consciousness which, when developed, enables a man eventually to make conscious contact with the higher. It is the lower concretizing mind which must be awakened, understood and used with definiteness before the higher mind can become the medium through which knowledge can be gained of those realities which constitute the kingdom of God.